Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. It is your boy Shadow FC, bringing us a brand new Fortnite Battle Royale video. And in today's videos, we are going to be going over everything that happened in FNCS Grand Finals, some of the highest placing teams, some of the lowest placing teams, the new winners, some teams that did really well, the teams that did really bad, and just everything that went down and how all the teams did. And this was by far one of the craziest FNCSs we have ever had. We had the new Storm Surge rules, which some teams benefited completely off of, and other teams completely struggled and immediately through the entire tournament. We also had the 3-week break in between FNCS semifinals and FNCS finals, so some teams were rusty and other teams were looking better than ever. We also had a very, very stacked leaderboard with just a 1-point difference between first and second on some of the regions. It was a very, very exciting and very crazy FNCS. There's a lot to talk about, so let's just get into it. The first region we will be talking about is EU. EU is a very exciting, very consistent region. The leaderboard on this one actually was not near as close as NA East, with first place Vidil and Janus coming away with 337 points. They had 2 wins. Second place being Mustache and Malabuka, another favorite to win. They had 318 points. So that is a 19-point difference between first and second. I know I said some of the regions were very close on the leaderboard. This one was not. Vidil and Janus held on going into their final game. I believe they had like a 20-point lead over Malabuka and Mustache. Now Malabuka and Mustache are known for winning a lot of games and set lobbies towards the end. Last season for FNCS, they won the final 3 games, and some people were wondering, will they be able to have a big comeback and be able to take over Vidil and Janus? They did not. They played very well in endgame. However, Vidil and Janus held on pretty much till the end. I believe Vidil had a very good solo clutch at the end of the game to manage to get on a lot more points. And again, it was a very exciting game to watch, but Vidil and Janus did hold on for first place, winning $150,000 each. And no surprise that Vidil and Janus won. They were one of the favorites to win. On day 1, they had 193 points, which was first going into day 2. They also had a win. Day 2, they finished in third place with 144 points and 1 win as well. So they did very good both days. They finished first the second day and third on the day 2 in terms of points, which would come out to be first place by a very big gap. And I, along with many other people, are very happy to see them do so well in this tournament. They've been very consistent up until then, so they were a favorite coming in, and I really wanted them to do good. They've been grinding so hard this season, and I'm very happy to see them coming in first place, getting $150,000 each. And then the final top 10 would be Mustache and Malabuka at second, Queasy and Vino at third, Joe and Zandy at fourth, Pink and Anas at fifth, Tripper and Thomas at sixth, Mikeson and Artur at seventh, Pablo and Swag at 8th, Seti and Cami at 9th, and Bevs and Vortex at 10th. And a known surprise, Mustache and Malabuka coming in second with 318 points. On day 1, they finished with 134 points and 0 wins. However, day 2, they did even better. They finished third in terms of points on day 2. They had 184 points in day 2 and 2 wins as well. Especially with Malabuka placing third in the No Build Saudi Arabia Cup and first in the Build Saudi Arabia Cup, it was no one's surprise that they were going to do very good. Again, a lot of people thought they might be able to make a comeback. They are known for winning games late in set lobbies. They did win 2, which was no surprise. Very good performance from Mustache and Malabuka. They are one of the newer teams on EU, however, they are already implementing themselves as one of the best teams on EU. In the third place, we had Queasy and Vino with a total of 288 points and 1 win. You see the drop-off, though. That is a 49-point difference between first place and third place, and a 20-point difference between second and third place. Very big drop-off. However, they still played very well as well. On day 1, Queasy and Vino would finish with 135 points in 6th place, and on day 2, they would finish in second place in terms of total points with 153 points and a win. So they did very, very good both days, very consistent, and then day 2 obviously is where they took home a lot more points. A few other things to note in the top 10, Joe and Zandy placing 4th with 276 points. Now the interesting thing with this is Joe finally proving that he is very good without Chapix. His name for a while was Zero without Chapix. A lot of people said he got carried with Chapix and that he's nothing without him. Well, Joe and Zandy coming in 4th place in finals. Joe was very, very happy to finally get a big placement without Chapix. He's been very good. Everyone's known he's a pro, but a lot of people think he's not as good of a pro without Chapix. Even Joe proving it to himself and to the rest of the world that he is still a very, very top-tier pro without Chapix. And now for some of the teams that struggled. In 41st place, we had Nebs and Mariah. And I was actually very high up on them. I had them placing just outside top 10, but obviously that did not happen. They really just could not get a rhythm going. They finished 37th, 32nd, 42nd, 42nd, 11th, 7th, 40th, 27th, 43rd, 23rd, and 38th, and then finishing it with a 36th. They really struggled. Surge was a main problem. They really could not get Surge. They were struggling with it heavily, and that was the thing I said in the beginning of the video, is with the new Surge rules and that big break being in between semifinals and finals, it was going to be interesting to see how teams adjusted to the Surge, which teams struggled and which teams didn't struggle. Nebs and Ryan unfortunately did struggle with Surge and very underperformed. However, I still believe they're still a top team on EU, but I do believe the reason for their underperformance was because of the new Surge rules. Another team that unfortunately struggled that I was really rooting for was Noah Riley and Rezon. Noah Riley has been very quiet since Chapter 3 launched. He obviously hasn't gotten any big placements. Now, he's gotten a few big placements, but in terms of FNCS, he really has not dominated like we're used to. They finished with 131 points in a 26 overall placement average. And their placements speak for themselves as well. They finished with a 27th, 33rd, 39th, 22nd, 34th, 19th, 19th, third place, which was very good, 27th, 38th, 11th, and 41st. So really only one top 10. I don't even think they got top 50 and other than that one third place. So they did really good on one day 2 game. Other than that, they completely struggled as well. Unfortunately, I hope Noah Riley can bounce back next season. He's been very quiet since Chapter 3 started. And I'm not sure. A lot of people were hoping he could, bounce back this season and pop off in Grands. He didn't. We're just going to have to wait and see how he does next season. Another team that struggled that I actually had winning FNCS Grands for EU, I had them coming in first, was Andalex and Snazy, the Frenchies. I was very high up on them. They finished with 154 points in 29th place. Now, that's not terrible. They finished with a 12th, 34th, 7th, 27th, 24th, 42nd, 23rd, 47th, 39th, and a 14th. So they had 2 decent games, but other than that, again, they really struggled on placement. They had a few 20th, 7th place games, but I mean, those, if you only have 2 or 3 of those games, it's not going to get you anything. I'm not sure exactly what went wrong. A lot of it was the zones. They had far pull zones, and that made it hard for them to get Surge. So it was a combination of unlucky zones as well as Surge. But yeah, my prediction kind of stumbled there. It was going good up until then, but Andalex and Snazy, who a lot of people, not just myself, had coming in very high on the leaderboard and proving kind of the dark horse team, ended up placing 29th, so not that good. And unfortunately, the second to last team that really struggled in my eyes was Hen and Mr. Savage. Unfortunately, they did struggle. A lot of people were rooting for them, but including myself, I was not super high up on them coming into this FNCS just because of how inconsistent they were up until this FNCS. They were very inconsistent in finals. In semifinals. They didn't even qualify through a win or a top 4 in semifinals. They actually just qualified through consistency points, which is good, but you would much rather qualify through a good placement in semifinals. Very inconsistent. That was a big question for them, is are they going to still have those inconsistency problems, or will they be able to pop off and play like the dynamic great duo they are? Unfortunately, they finished in 26th place with 164 points. Not the best performance, unfortunately. I'm not sure what happened. I expect for Hen and Savage to split. They're 2 very good players, and we thought coming into the season they were going to be a very top-tier duo. Unfortunately, it's either the chemistry or something's not clicking between the 2, and unfortunately they did struggle as well. And the final team that struggled, a lot of people, including myself, had them high up on the leaderboard, was Tayson and Chapix. I know Tayson, who is arguably the best player on EU all time. I think he's the best player on EU. In Chapix as well. They finished in 23rd place with 179 points. Now this one is interesting though, because they were conned off spawn every single time, and in day 1 they actually went 5 for 6 off spawn. Now when I say off spawn fighting, I don't mean like they're conned like half of the POI they're going to is one team and they're on the other side. No, they're 50-50 at Loot Lake. In the north area, there's this little house, not a house, it's kind of like a little tower. They were literally 50-50ing a chest and 2 floor spawns every single time against Podesai and Sweezy, who placed in 27th. In day 1, they actually did very good and exceeded a lot of expectations. They went 5 for 6 on the off spawn fighting, which was very good because you get Surge and 2 kills. So day 1, I believe they finished like in 4th place or something. They had 135 points in day 1 going into day 2. So they were looking very good going into day 2. But the problem is 50-50. It doesn't matter how good you look, it can change instantly. You could look really good and win all your 50-50s one day, but then the next day you go in and you don't get a single 50-50, and unfortunately that is pretty much what happened with Tayson and Chapix. Now, for their day 1 match history, they finished 14th, 14th, 17th, 11th, 49th, and 12th. So the 49th place, the 5th game, was the one game they did die off spawn and lost the 50-50, but other than that, it was very consistent every single time. It was about 15th place. That's very good. That's very good, especially considering that they're conned off spawn, and to win 5 of the 6, that is almost unheard of. So they did very, very good at day 1. However, the problem, like I said, is when it came day 2. In day 2, they lost the first 4 straight 50-50s with a 50th, 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 and 50th straight placement. So they were the first team to die in 4 straight games. They finished it off with a 15th place 4 elim game and a 23rd 5 elim game. After game 4, once they got the guns in the 5th and 6th games, they just ended up W-keying. I believe they went all the way over to Rave Cave. They keyed some kids. They did not care. They'd given up on the tournament. They thought might as well W-key and just see what happens. But at that point, they knew it was over. So unfortunately, you hate to see it, especially Tayson and Chapix, one of the best duos on AU. Tayson obviously has cemented himself as one of the best players of all time on any region, and you hate to see them dying and doing so bad in a tournament simply because of that. But even to place 23rd when you're literally 50-50, I still think that's amazing. They ended up going 7 for 5 in total on the 50-50s, which is still very good, and it just goes to show even Tayson and Chappies, even though they didn't play that well, it's out of their hands, but they still did pretty decent considering they were con every single time. Now moving on to NA East, oh my goodness, this was by far the most crazy FNCS for NA East we've ever seen. In my opinion, it might have been the most stacked and close leaderboard we've ever seen on any region ever. In 10th place we had Trashy and Rise, in 9th we had Threats and Macwood, in 8th we had Jamper and Yamzo, in 7th we had Acorn and Edgy, in 6th we had Peterbot and Bila, in 5th we had Agers and Kanata, in 4th we had Dukes and Clicks, in 3rd place we had the Frenchies, Pamstu and Fatch with 313 points and 2 wins. In 2nd place, we had Miro and Buga with 315 points and 1 win. And in 1st place, winning FNCS was Commandment and Avery with 316 points, 1 point away from 2nd place and 1 win. And I could not be more happy for Commandment Avery to win this FNCS. On day 1, they finished in 9th place with 124 points, and day 2, they finished with 192 points on day 2. They had 192 points day 2. They had 34 more points than 2nd place in terms of points on day 2, which was Pam, Stu, and Fatch with 158 points. They had a win. They averaged 4 elims a game, and their average placement was 7.67. So right around 7th and 8th place is where they averaged. They absolutely popped off day 2. However, that is not the craziest part yet, because Buga and Miro, going into the final game, Game 12 on day 2, they had a 20-point lead over Commandment and Avery, and everyone was thinking, oh, it cemented Buga and Miro. They're going to win. They're going to be the FNCS champions. However, they went down early. They went down in 21st place with only 2 elims. So that meant Avery, who died early that game as well, it was up to Commandment to clutch up and get a huge pop-off because he realized Buga and Miro are down. It's up to me now. He popped off as a solo. He finished with a 6th place 5 elim win. I'm not exactly sure what zone Avery went down. I believe it was zone 4 or 5. He was insane. He ended up getting like 3 or 4 kills in the late game. He even duo-wiped a team. I forgot who, but he duo-wiped one team. He killed like 2 other solos, clutched up placement, and he didn't have a lot. It wasn't like he had a full gold loadout and max mass. He was very shambles for most of the game as well. A incredible job by Commandment to clutch up and get 1st place for him and Avery. The other very impressive thing Commandment and Avery did is last season FNCS Chapter 3 Season 2, they finished 50th. Dead last in set lobbies finals. They only got $500 each. They finished dead last, 50th place in FNCS finals. So a very poor performance. I'm not even sure how many points they had exactly, but it clearly was probably not much. Last place in FNCS finals. Coming into this place and this FNCS, a lot of people were doubting them, saying that they're not going to do that good and that it's just going to be a repeat of last year. Boy, were they wrong. 1st place, 316 points. So from 50th last season, this wasn't like a year's work of dedication. Last place last season to 1st place this season. That is incredible. A huge turn of events for Commandment and Avery, and I'm very happy to see all that hard work over these short couple months paying off. Now, Buga and Miro, 2nd place. To most people, that would be amazing and that they're very happy for him. However, Buga took to Twitter saying how sad he is and that they threw and that they played some very bad RNG games. Obviously, if you lose out on 2nd place just by a point, if you had a chance to get 1st place, you're 20 points ahead going into the final game, and you lose by 1 point. Obviously, I'm not exactly sure how they went down. I was watching it. It was just a combination of them getting scuffed with a bad zone and then turning into shambles loot and getting held. Bugo took to Twitter, like I said, to say how sad he was and how upset. And I don't blame him. I mean, when you're 20 points ahead and then you lose by 1 point to an insane clutch by someone, you're never going to be happy about that. So sure, they did pop off and get 2nd place. However, you're still never going to be happy about a 2nd place like that when you should have had 1st place. And then Pam, Stu, and Fatch coming in 3rd. Very happy for them. The Frenchies representing the French people. A lot of people were very curious about them. They're kind of a new duo, new to NA, and I'm very happy they were able to pop off as well, submitting their name as a top NA East team as well. Again, not a lot of people knew about them, but I am very glad they were able to pop off as well. And in 4th place, Clicks and Duke. I was very surprised to see them pop off. They had 275 points and 1 win. Their average placement was 14th with 2 kills, so very consistently from them as well. They were very inconsistent in set lobbies up in FNCS Open Finals. They were very inconsistent in set lobbies coming into this, which is the reason me, along with a lot of other people, doubted them and that they weren't, now not that they were going to place terribly, but maybe around a 20th to a 15th place, because I was not expecting them to pop off this hard and get 4th place, but I am very excited. Klitz even took to Twitter saying, "I'm glad I proved all y'all wrong," and how happy he was with their placement, so I'm very happy for Klitz and Duke to prove everyone wrong. And in 5th place, a bit of a surpriser is Kanata and Agers with 270 points in total. Day 1, they racked up 115 points, and on Day 2, they racked up 155 points. Now, I say it was a bit of a surprise because this was a team a lot of people, including myself, had winning FNCS. This was a very consistent team coming into FNCS. They had won back-to-back Cash Cups. They were dominating. They dominated in the Open qualifiers. This was a team, this was by far the most consistent team we had seen on NA, and like I said, a lot of people, including myself, thought they not necessarily were going to run away with the tournament, but they were by far the safest lock to put in that number 1 for finals. But unfortunately, Day 1 was a bit of a struggle for them. They actually kicked off the tournament with winning with a 7 elim win. Now, that was the first game of set lobbies, and they actually won, so a lot of people, their hope went up even more that they were going to prove that they were the best team in A. However, then they got a 2 elim 25th, a 10 kill 2nd place, so you had one really good game, a bad game, and then a very good game. Then they had a 30th place 0 elim, a 45th place 0 elim, and a 29th place 0 elim. And for them, it wasn't Surge that they were struggling with, it was just the mid-game fights that they were struggling with. I believe they got keyed 2 of the 3 games, I'm not sure, but either way, the mid-game fighting was what really struggled them. So they had 2 really good games, a first and a second with 17 kills combined, and then the other 4 games they had 0 points. It was a really rough day to start on Day 1. However, Day 2 they did improve. They finished 3rd in total points for Day 2 with 155. They finished with a 2 elim 11th, a 1 elim 5th, a 0 elim 25th, a 3 elim 4th, a 5 elim 10th, and a 5 elim 8th. So 5 out of the 6 games they played on Day 2 were much better. The only bad game they had was a 0 elim 25th, which was game 3. Other than that, though, they did really bounce back. They ended up going from 12th to 5th, which is very hard to do. They moved up 7 spots in Day 2. So even though they didn't win it, they still managed to prove some people wrong that were doubting them going into Day 2 by moving up 7 spots into the 5th spot. And in 6th spot, we had the returning FNCS champions, Peterbot and Byla from last season, Chapter 3, Season 2. Obviously, they were the FNCS champions. A lot of drama was going on in between these two people leading up to FNCS. They had been dropped and split each other like 3 or 4 times coming into FNCS. They took to Twitter to say how much they hated each other and how much they truly dislike each other. Then they got back together for the Qualifier 2, I believe. Then in Qualifier 3, they dropped each other. It was super, super confusing. It looked like this team hated each other, which they do. I mean, they've openly admitted they do not like each other, but apparently they play very well together, in which they did. They ended up getting 6th, and obviously last season they did win. And they actually started off Day 1 very impressive with 182 points and a 20-point lead over second. So they were in 1st place going into Day 2. They had a 14th place 3rd, they had a 3 elim 4th, an 8 elim 7th, a 2 elim 33rd, a 2 elim 5th, and a 8 elim win. So really only one bad game in Day 1, and they were looking very solid, obviously up 20 points on Bugha and Mira with a win. Going into Day 2, they were looking like one of the favorite teams to take away the W. However, unfortunately, on Day 2 is where they really struggled. In terms of points on Day 2 alone, they finished 23rd place with 87 points in total. They finished with a 3 elim 34th, a 3 elim 18th, a 0 elim 33rd, a 0 elim 34th, a 1 elim 30th, and a 7 elim 2nd. So a very rough Day 2 for them, especially in terms of placement. They only got top 17 and 1. So they had one really good game to end it with a 7 elim 2nd. Other than that, though, like I said, they averaged around 30th place, I believe. It was a really rough Day 2. A lot of it was Surge. I'm not exactly sure what happened. The broadcast didn't show them a lot, but I do believe they did struggle with Surge a lot. I think they got keyed randomly a few times too, and then by like game 5 or 6, they had given up and they were really upset. So I'm not, again, the broadcast didn't show them too much, but from what I heard, I do believe they did struggle with Surge and a lot of mid-map fighting as well. Now for NA East, there weren't too many teams that truly underperformed in my opinion. If I were to pick 2, I would say Blake and Vert, who finished 34th place with 132 points, underperformed in my opinion. They were looking very solid coming into this. They had a 2 elim 34th, a 1 elim 33rd, a 1 elim 8th, a 1 elim 26th, a 0 elim 27th, a 2 elim 25th, a 0 elim 37th, a 7 elim 2nd, a 0 elim 23rd, a 0 elim 22nd, a 1 elim 31st, and a 0 elim 30th. So it was really rough, especially for placement and elims all around. I'm not exactly sure what happened with them. The broadcast didn't show them a whole lot. I think it was just mid-game fighting. A lot of these teams that placed lower on the leaderboard, I believe a lot of it was mid-game fighting. Unfortunately for them, like I said, they were looking very solid coming into FNCS. They still didn't do bad. They got 130 points and 34th. I mean, that's not terrible, but especially for them who are looking very solid, they definitely underperformed in my opinion. And the only other team that underperformed in my opinion was Tahi and Bake. They had a 3 Elam 21st, a 0 Elam 50th, a 2 Elam 47th, a 0 Elam 50th, a 2 Elam 43rd, a 0 Elam 55th, or excuse me, 50th, not 55th, 50th, a 2 Elam 45th, a 2 Elam 32nd, a 2 Elam 27th, a 2 Elam, or excuse me, a 0 Elam 44th, a 2 Elam 41st, and a 2 Elam 37th. However, all of those early deaths, like the 0 Elam 50s, were because they were conned off spawn 50-50 in the exact same spot at Loot Lake where Tyson and Chapix were conned off spawn. So it was the exact same thing, just on NA East. They had to deal with the same thing. I don't know exactly what their record is. I believe it was not that good. It was maybe, I think they went 6-6, I believe. Either way, though, I mean, they didn't even make it out of top 30. They really struggled, unfortunately. Being conned and 50-50 off spawn like that is so tough, even for the best of the best pros. It's still something very hard to deal with and to adjust to. So unfortunately, Tahi and Bake did not do as well as I thought they were going to perform, but the main reason being obviously because they were conned 50-50. And that is it for NA East. NA East was by far the most exciting region to watch this season for FNCS, or at least in finals. I mean, obviously it was. There was a 3-point difference between first place and third place. We saw Commandments insane clutch to clutch up 20-something points to get the victory over Bugha and Miro, which were only 1 point behind them. It was by far one of the most exciting FNCS tournaments we have ever seen, and by far the most exciting tournament we have seen this season so far. Now moving on to the final region we will be covering is NA West, where we crowned a new champion and by an insane margin of points. And no, it was not Reet and Epic Whale, it was not Fabs and Stacky, it was not Defiable and Cypers, it was not Bacon and Zooks, it was not Trap and Caesar, it was not any of the big name teams on NA West. It was Cool and Yumi, who finished with 320 points and 3 Elams, 45 points above second place. Second place was Bacon and On1, who had 275 points. So Cool and Yumi, not an unknown team, but definitely nowhere near as known as a team like Epic Whale and Favs and Snacky. Definitely were not the favorites to win FNCS. Came away absolutely dominating and winning by 45 points. And this wasn't something that came down to the last wire easy. It wasn't like they popped off their final game. On day one, they were in the lead by 58 points. They were up with 209 points and 2 wins on day one. Bacon and 33 Zooks were in second with 159 points. However, Cool and Yumi's placements were insane. They finished with a 6 Elam first, a 1 Elam 13th, an 8 Elam second, a 5 Elam 10th, a 6 Elam first, and a 0 Elam 6th. Their worst placement day one was a 13th place. They absolutely crushed it. They averaged a 5th place overall on day one and 4 Elams. Day one, they absolutely crushed it, and a lot of people thought going into day two, it doesn't matter who they're against, it doesn't matter Reet and Epic Whale, it doesn't matter Favs and Snacky, it doesn't matter any other teams, not even Reet and Epic Whale can come back and climb 70-something points to come over and take the lead. And so Cool and Yumi knew all they had to be was consistent on day two, and they would easily take home the FNCS champion, which they did. They finished with 111 points and 1 win as well. And then the final top 10 leaderboard for FNCS NA West would be Baka and On1 with 275 points. In third place, we had Favs and Snacky, these Chapter 3 Season 2 FNCS winners with 271 points. In fourth place, we had Defiable and Cypers on 268 points. In fifth place, we had Bacon and Zooks on 268 points as well, tied with fourth. In sixth place, we had Trap and Caesar with 264 points. In seventh, we had Zeno and Knock with 254 points. In eighth place, we had Jagveer and School with 248 points. In ninth place, we had Caleb and Batman Bugha with 245. And in 10th place, we finished with Caden and Chris with 242 points. However, there are two huge duos we did not mention in the top 10, and I know some of you guys probably caught on to that. In 11th place, just outside of the top 10, we had Ree and Epic Whale, the team that was favored to win this entire thing. Epic Whale, who just cemented himself as one of, if not the best Fortnite players of all time by winning the Saudi Arabia tournament about a month ago. They finished in 11th place with 238 points and 1 win. They didn't really struggle too much. I'm not even sure what happened. They finished with a 1 Elam 24th, a 2 Elam 3rd, a 3 Elam 9th, a 2 Elam 34th, a 4 Elam 19th, a 4 Elam 5th, a 5 Elam 21st, a 8 Elam 1st, a 4 Elam 21st, a 1 Elam 28th, and a 4 Elam 25th, and then finally a 0 Elam 46th place to end the tournament. So not a bad performance at all to at least most of us. Obviously to Reet and Epic Whale, this tournament was probably one of their worst tournaments because they're used to completely dominating on NA West, especially this season. I mean, they've been so dominant, winning cash cups. They dominated in open finals. In fact, they didn't even qualify in semifinals on purpose just so they could continue to play in FNCS. That's how confident they were. The elims were not the problem at all. I mean, they did very good. They had really good average elims. The placement was not too much of an issue either. Really, I mean, just teams like Cool and Yumi and Baka and On One just did so much better. Again, though, for Reet and Epic Whale, to most people, an 11th place would be very good, and you're going to, be happy about that and celebrating. However, like I said, to Reet and Epic Whale, even though they didn't do bad, they had very good average elims, and honestly, not even bad placements. You're still not going to be happy being one of the best teams on NA West by a big amount. An 11th place is not going to be too good for you. And then finishing right behind Reet and Epic Whale in 12th on 236 points was Cole and Landroff, one of the most OG duos that has been dominant for so long. They finished with a 0 elim 35th, a 4 elim 7th, a 1 elim 8th, a 2 elim 7th, a 4 elim 2nd, a 1 elim 13th, a 0 elim 29th, a 4 elim 3rd, a 0 elim 39th, a 0 elim 30th, a 1 elim 15th, and finishing it off with a 2 elim 9th. So a pretty good performance from them as well. Obviously just 2 points behind Reet and Epic Whale. The placements were very good. I mean, 7th, 8th, 7th, 2nd. They were very consistent in placement and elims as well. It was just those few really bad games that really unfortunately hurt them. And that wraps it up for NA West as well. And overall, this was one of the most fun and exciting FNCSs that has been in a while, in my opinion. I haven't really watched FNCS this closely ever. I was watching Aussie Antics and the Fortnite broadcast pretty much every time they were live spectating FNCS. It was super fun to watch. Even with this being one of the worst seasons there has been for competitive and casual modes in a long time, the viewer bases have been down, the YouTube views have been down. This was still one of the most viewed FNCSs ever, and for a good reason. It was super exciting across all regions. Even NA West, a small region compared to EU and NA East, was still very exciting to watch. Obviously, it was one of the most exciting FNCSs we've ever seen. I know I said that like 3 times already, but I can't implement that enough, how exciting it was to watch, even with the season being one of the worst seasons we've had. And then again, also a big shout out to the FNCS winners. For EU, we had Badil and Janice. For NA East, we had Commandment and Avery. And then for NA West, we had Cool and Yumi. And I know, guys, it has been a good while since I uploaded. I uploaded a montage like 3 weeks ago, my first actual talking video. This is my first actual talking video in like 2 months. It's been super long. I know I was really sick. I went on vacation. Then I was, just kind of doing my own thing. It was summer. I was either grinding the game or out with friends or doing whatever. School's starting now, so I want to get back in the groove. I know school's starting, so it's kind of a weird time for me to start uploading again because school's starting and I'm not doing it over summer. But it's now or never. I really want to get back into the YouTube grind. There's a lot of big things today. I know today was the huge Dragon Ball Z update. I will try to get a video out on that within the next 2 to 3 days. But yeah, I know I said this like 2 months ago, I'm gonna get back into the YouTube grind, and then I took like a 3-month break, but I promise it's not gonna happen again. Even if it's not super consistent, maybe just 2 to 3 uploads a week, I'm still going to be uploading, especially with me not playing as much competitive Fortnite because of school. I'm gonna definitely try to be uploading as much YouTube as possible. Even if the content's a little dull, I just want to get back into it. I know there's a new season coming in like 2 to 3 weeks, so these next couple of weeks will probably be kind of a dead time for Fortnite, which they usually are towards the end of a season, but I'm going to try to get out as much content as possible. With all that being said, it's been Shout Out. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace!